What's up, guys? Tyler back here on the SG1 Sports YouTube channel. And today we got our Week 10 predictions. And wow, it's already Week 10 here in college football. Time flies. And what a first 9 weeks it's been, already halfway through the season. Notes here for you. The Georgia-Florida prediction has already been made on the SEC, not CC, football channel at the Voice of College Football. So if you really want that one, we'll also talk about that tomorrow morning on our live stream. Make sure to tune in for that if you want more in-depth picks there. But we're not going to be talking about that game. And this week for the SEC is a little bit light. Next week's way bigger. But this is mainly a Big Ten and ACC type week. There are some decent Big 12 games sprinkled in there. And obviously the SEC games could be pretty good too with the matchups. But yeah, let's jump into our picks. And boy, oh boy, the upset pick's going to surprise a lot of people and probably upset many. Here we go. I have yet to really make that senseless upset pick that has made no sense. Usually in the upset picks I pick, they usually make sense, and they've been 7 out of 9 of them have been close games. So I have that going for me. But Michigan comes in as a 16.5-point home underdog here. That doesn't really sit well with me, as well as Michigan just came off a huge win. Davis Warren played fine, to be honest with you. And then they sprinkled in Alex Orgy there, and the offense looked a little bit better. And if they can find something and find some similar success there, this is going to be a very close game. Regardless of that, I do think it's going to be a close game. I think Oregon's actually going to struggle here. If you look at Oregon's schedule, where is that real tough road game? They haven't really had one. People talk about Purdue. Okay, cool. Purdue really isn't a tough place to play. It used to be under Braum because they pulled those random upsets. They have a new head coach, and he's terrible. So sorry about that for you. And that team is terrible too. But I guess that's their toughest road game. But if you look at their schedule, Oregon's on this weird span in which they're on the East Coast one week, the West Coast the next, East Coast, West Coast, East Coast. It's a continuing factor, and they don't have a bye week until after they play Wisconsin. So that's a terrible place to put a bye week. If you're an Oregon fan, you kind of wish you had a bye week before this game, or heck, even after, but you don't. And this is where I think Oregon could possibly fall into a trap. Again, they play Wisconsin later on, in which I think Wisconsin's going to compete, and that's probably going to be a night game on the road in Camp Randall. Michigan, though, this is a very tough place to play. The last time Oregon really played on the East Coast, and it was a tougher situation, they had Mario Cristobal at head coach, and they beat Ohio State, obviously. Michigan is not a better team than Oregon. However, with it being at home and with them finding a way to win last week, Michigan State, I think they're going to come in with some type of momentum, and they're going to shock some people. I do think this is going to be a four-quarter game in which Michigan's offensive line and defensive line could potentially win most of these battles. And with how good Oregon's defensive line has been, that would kind of be a shock. I think Michigan's going to surprisingly run the football here. I think they're going to match Oregon, and I think this is going to be a pretty close game. There's something about playing at Michigan that's just tough, and I know Texas was able to go in there and beat the soul out of them. I don't think that's going to happen. I know Oregon is extremely athletic, and I've been high on Oregon all season long, but there's something about this game that just doesn't sit right with me, and I'm going to take Michigan here at home to pull a major upset and for sure cover the 16.5 points, but beat Oregon outright. Speaking of Wisconsin, they take on Iowa at Kinnick Stadium. This is a night game, and Iowa is a couple-point favorite here, as they probably should be. Iowa fans have been relatively delusional this season, and even into the offseason, in which they thought they were going to make it to the college football playoff at 11-1. That was ridiculous, made no sense to me. They didn't have the quarterback to do it. Well, now they changed quarterbacks, and they're going to go with Sullivan here. And I'm just extremely high on Wisconsin. Wisconsin's offensive and defensive line have been playing up to par over the past few weeks. Kind of struggled against Penn State, but that's a legitimate top 5 team. Penn State surprised me in that game. I thought that was going to be a 4-quarter game, and it was a 4-quarter game, but I didn't see Penn State winning that one by 2 scores, and they did. So shout out to Penn State. But I think this is Wisconsin's bounce-back game. Locke, you can't make those dumb decisions here. And I know Iowa made the change at quarterback, But I still think Wisconsin's just a better team. About one of the most underrated teams in college football, not just the ACC, the Virginia Tech Hokies. They're just, listen, they are 5-3, but they are 3-1 now in conference play. And if they win out, which is a definite possibility, if things go their way, they could end up playing Miami in that ACC title game. And they definitely have a shot. People are not talking about this Virginia Tech team. And then you have Syracuse, on the other hand, with Honda McCord, who just played absolutely terrible against a decent Pittsburgh team. And Pittsburgh's a pretty good team. I guess decent's not the right wording. And again, we'll talk about Pittsburgh later on, but Pittsburgh's had some miracle wins. Pittsburgh showed out against Syracuse. Give credit where credit is due. And I liked Pittsburgh on that 3.5 too last week. Now, Pittsburgh plays SMU, but this is Virginia Tech. Again, we'll talk about Pittsburgh here in a few. But yeah, I like Virginia Tech here. The Hokies are finally finding something, and this could be a much worse game. But yeah, give me the Hokies here, and I'll cover the 3.5. And we'll stay with the ACC here as Louisville comes in as an 11.5-point road underdog to mighty Clemson. Clemson fans have been loud this season, in which they think that they're a top 10 team. They think that they could potentially be in the top 5. And the biggest one and the most mind-numbing one is they think that the Georgia game was a fluke. They think that they could beat Georgia. I hate to be the bearer of bad news here, but if you lose a game by 31 points, you have no business thinking that you can beat that team. I don't care how well you think that you can get. Especially when that team is top 5 in the nation. But I digress for Clemson fans here. Clemson just had a bye week while Louisville just found themselves winning that amazing Boston College game. I think this is going to be a close game. Tyler Shuck has played pretty well against ranked teams. And this is now week 4, or his 4th week against a top 15 team, or at least top 20, as SMU's in that top 20. But I think he's going to come out on the road and play pretty well. I trust Coach Braum to make this a close game. Again, I don't think Clemson's a top 10 team. I'm sorry, I hate to be like that. I think they have some problems defensively and in that secondary. They have a really good front 7, but here's the thing. It hasn't been as good as what I thought it would be, including Clemson fans as well. So their defense is kind of an issue. They're giving up 24 points per game. Louisville's going to be able to score. I think this is a close game, but give me Clemson outright, but give me Louisville in 11.5. And we're going to make this a quick pick here, in which Miami's not going to lose this game. They're like a 17, 18, 19-point favorite here at home against Duke. Duke found a way to lose against SMU, in which they forced 6 turnovers. 6. And they didn't turn over the ball themselves, and they lost that game. That's mind-numbing to me, Manny Diaz, but that just shows you their offense just isn't that good. They're not going to have the offense to compete in this game, and I just hate to be like this, but I really think Miami's going to blow them out here. Duke's just not that good of a team. I know they're 6-2. I'm not trying to hate on Duke with what they've got. They have one of the worst rosters, again, in the ACC, but they have a really good head coach in Manny Diaz. His return to Miami here is Miami's going to lay it down. Give me the Canes here by 21. This was originally going to be my upset pick, but there's just something about this Iowa State team this season. They are an interesting team to watch. They've had some come-from-behind victories, all-time classics, really, against Iowa and UCF. They just found ways to win those games, or maybe it was West Virginia. Drawing a blank there, but they've had 2 games in which they were down in the 4th quarter and just found ways to just secure the win. They had a 55-yard field goal with a true freshman kicker at Kinnick. That's just ridiculous. And then they scored a last-minute touchdown against, I think it was UCF. I could be wrong. It was either UCF or West Virginia. But they find ways to win games. That's how good Matt Campbell is. And Texas Tech's going to return. It looks like Morton, who's a huge piece. Hammond just didn't. I mean, he's got a strong future for Texas Tech, but he's not it yet. So obviously they need Morton here. I think this is a higher scoring game, but I think Iowa State wins it late. And here we go. Ole Miss travels to Fayetteville to take on the Arkansas Razorbacks. It depends who's playing it. If Trey Harris is able to play in this game, I do like Ole Miss to win this game. If he doesn't, it's going to be tough for Ole Miss to win on the road. Arkansas is a rather tough place to play, and Arkansas's goal, especially Sam Pittman's goal, is to get to 7-5. Look at Arkansas's schedule; it's pretty tough. Ole Miss at home, they play Texas at home, and they had to go on the road against Missouri, which is never easy, especially it's kind of a rivalry, I guess. But it's not really a heard of rivalry. No offense to either of those teams, but it's not one of the bigger ones. But still a rivalry game there. I like Ole Miss here. They are a 7.5 point road favorite. I do like Arkansas to cover, I guess. But I just got to go with the better quarterback, and that's Jackson Dart. I know Taylon Green. Listen, he's a turnover. Every game, he's 1 or 2 turnovers away from just blowing the game, and that's kind of what I think is going to happen here. You saw that against Oklahoma State. Then the Tennessee game, he didn't turn the ball over any, but did get injured towards down the stretch there. But they won that game. Texas A&M game, he threw an interception late and had that fumble. And in the LSU game, he was a turnover machine too. So if he doesn't turn the ball over here, Arkansas wins, but I just can't bank off that. Quick here, this is everyone's common upset pick because, man, it's Texas A&M receive a lot of hate here. But Texas A&M is something like 10-1 or 11-1 versus South Carolina since they've joined the SEC. The one time they lost to South Carolina was the last time they played in Columbia, in which Texas A&M went 5-7 and South Carolina went 8-4. So come on here. I like Texas A&M here. South Carolina is going to have to be able to force 3 turnovers because that's what it took to beat Oklahoma and Kentucky, 3 or 4. And then they're going to have to be able to run the football. Breaking news, not a lot of teams can run the football in Texas A&M. Their D-line is just ridiculous. And Texas A&M with Marcel Reed now at quarterback fits Colin Klein's scheme more. They should win this game, I think, comfortably. I think 2.5 is very disrespectful towards Texas A&M. Give me the Aggies in 2.5. And here we go. This is probably right now the biggest game thus far in the ACC. People turn to the Miami-Louisville game. Well, Louisville already had 2 losses there. This one right here I think is bigger because neither team plays Miami, and they both SMU doesn't play Clemson. This becomes a huge game based upon tiebreakers and common opponents. Pittsburgh just demoralized Syracuse last week, and SMU found a way to win on the road. And by the way, SMU had to play 3 straight road games. What a disrespectful and terrible thing to do for the ACC. I can't remember a time in which a team had to go on the road 3 straight times in the ACC when there's literally just 8 conference games. Can anyone name a team to do that? Certainly Florida State, Miami, and even Clemson never had to go through that. But they went through that gauntlet and found ways to win. They blew out Stanford. They blew out another team there. And then they found a way to beat Duke. SMU is a legitimate top 20 team. In fact, after this game, could get into that top 15. Or they're a top 20 team. They're a legitimate top 20 team. They should, after this game, be in the top 20. I like SMU here. They're the home team. This is their all-out situation. This is their biggest game of the season. People have this aura and whatever you want to call it about SMU being a group of 5 team. They shouldn't be in the ACC, blah, 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 blah. ACC fans even said it. SMU bought their way into the ACC, and boy, wouldn't it be funny if they made it to the ACC title. Guys, I think they are. I think they're going to beat Pittsburgh. If Kevin Jennings isn't able to go, I do expect Preston Stone to come back here and be able to throw the football around and win them the game. Their offensive line, this line of scrimmage for SMU is very underrated. Pittsburgh, on the other hand, they have a decent defense, and their offense is basically surrounded by 2 players, Reed and Holstein. I like SMU. I think they have a better coaching staff here, and this being at home, for whatever reason, on ACC Network, again, disrespectful towards both these teams. These 2 teams in the ACC are like the afterthoughts for whatever reason. The winner of this game, I think, is going to be in the ACC title game, but give me the SMU Mustangs to win at home. Now, the biggest game of the weekend, which is the big noon game. By the way, I hate that. I wish this was on CBS or NBC because that meant it would be a prime time. But I digress there. Number 4, Ohio State's a 3.5 point road favorite at Penn State. Penn State hasn't beaten Ohio State since 2016. They've been on a tough stretch there. But every single time they lose a close game, relatively close speaking, as a couple of those games kind of got away from them. I know they lost 33-24, and in which they probably should have won that game at Ohio State, but I digress there. I think that was 2021. 2020, who cares? I think it was like 45-33 or some weird score like that. Other than that, this is a close game. Last year was very close. Penn State just didn't have the offense to do it. Well, breaking news, they do this year. Now, if Drew Aller doesn't play in this game, I don't know how I could expect Penn State to win, but I'm banking on the fact that he is. This is a tough Penn State offense to slow down and just stop. You know, they have a decent offensive line, and it's probably a little bit better than decent, to be honest with you. And then they have Drew Aller out there making plays. Tyler Warren is the best tight end in college football. I know that upsets a lot of people, but he just is. He's a ridiculous receiver. Similarly to Brock Bowers, I'm a Georgia fan. I don't think he is as good as Brock Bowers, but this guy wins all the 50-50 balls. He can throw the football too. He runs pretty good routes. He's a hard blocker. I think he's the best tight end in college football. And then you have Katron Allen and Noah Singleton. One of those two is going to have a pretty good game. That's my expectation. And that's what that's what I think. Now, who is it going to be? I'm always wrong here. Last year I said it would be Noah Singleton, and I believe Katron Allen just was way better. Noah Singleton got shut down. So I'm going to go with Noah Singleton this year. And he can catch the football too, by the way. He had a big touchdown against Wisconsin last week, and then he also had a big touchdown against USC to tie that game. Ohio State has an issue on the offensive line. Their left tackle situation, Simmons out for the season, and then I forget Mike Kowski or something like that. I think he's now out, but he was playing pretty terrible. And Ohio State's offensive line has just been an issue over the past 3 weeks, in which they've just been pushed around for being dead serious here against pretty good defensive lines. But here's the problem. Penn State, I think, is the better team. I've been saying this all offseason, all season, not offseason, in which I think Penn State's going to beat Ohio State. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I'm going to take Penn State here. And give me those 3.5 points for sure there. If for whatever reason Ohio State is the favorite, and it's basically, like I said, banking on the fact that Drew Aller isn't playing in this game. I do think Purdue is going to come in and have a 10 to 15-ish snaps. That's what they're going to have to do to relieve Drew Aller, because he's not 100%. But still, there's something about this Nittany Lion team. James Franklin, he's undefeated this year in 1-2 games that really a lot of people said in years past he would lose, at USC and then at Wisconsin. Up to this point, he's undefeated. He's yet to make that mistake. I'm going to ride Penn State here. I'm not sold on the offensive line. And even the defensive line in the past 2 weeks, I wouldn't say they got pushed around against Nebraska, but they still lost a lot of those battles in which they still gave up 150 yards rushing. I think Penn State's going to get around that as well, and they're going to beat Ohio State. So let me know what you guys think here. Who are you going to take? You're going to take Ohio State or Penn State? A lot of you OSU fans are going to be upset at me. I know you guys have been calling for my heads lately. But hey, give me Penn State here. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.